Welcome to the Fat Dad Fishing Show podcast, a podcast aimed at helping saltwater fishermen catch more fish in less time and have a better on-the-water experience. My name is Rich, and I'm the host of the show. In this episode, I'm joined by co-host Ed, who is the owner of Captain Hank's Tackle, and we welcome onto the show Elle from Heaven and Elle Outdoors on Instagram. Summer Flounder is one of Elle's favorite fish to target, and in this episode, we're going to talk with Elle about everything that you need to know about targeting this species. We're going to talk about baits, we're going to talk about tackle, we're going to talk about tactics, all of it. So kick back, relax, and take it all in. Here we go. We're going to jump in, and man, we spent all last week talking about opening day, what went right, what went wrong, what were our thoughts, but we're going to go a little bit more general. Right? Because not much has changed between last week and this week. The water temps are the same. The weather's still terrible. Mike, thank you very much for the super chat there. That's greatly appreciated. So we're going to jump in more general. And Elle, we talked to you about winter flounder. So let's talk a little bit about, where your passion for the summer flounder has come in and how you really got started.
I think the biggest part and the reason why I love Fluke, actually probably two reasons. One is that it's during the summer and I love summer and I love the warmth of summer. So any fish that I can actively fish for in the summer is top for me. So the reason why I love Fluke is because it's a summer fish, but also because of how they chase their prey. They're such predator fish. And when you watch any video of them chasing down anything that they want to eat or they're just interested in it, I just fall in love with them. They're just the coolest. When you see the all huge pack of Fluke chasing, a bucktail on somebody's fish cam, I can't get enough of it. I love that they chase down their prey.
Yeah, so. The one thing about them that I always find interesting, and I actually saw a comment today on social media where somebody had put up a video, and I think that the title, you can look it up on YouTube. I think the title was "How to Catch Flounder with Gulp." Or bucktail and gulp. And the comment that I saw was, you mean how to get a flounder to chase a bucktail because it didn't bite. And if you notice in those videos, they don't bite.
Yeah,
a lot
true.
of times they don't bite and they follow for a very long time.
A very long time.
Yeah. And to me, that's an added challenge because in my mind, there's always something following. I don't know if it's true or not, right? I don't have a camera down 99.9% of the time, but they're very aggressive, but they're also very cautious. You really have to get them, you really got to work to get them to bite. And it goes into, I guess, the presentation, what you're using, maybe even the color. So we'll talk about all that stuff. But what do you think, what's your thought on this season this year? I mean, we're starting, three weeks early?
Yeah. So I was actually taking notes when I watched your recap because I missed it last week. I was recovering from a wedding the day before. And but I literally went to a wedding the night before Fluke season opened and then went out and fished all of opener. So by 8:00 that night, I was pretty tired. But I watched it the next day and literally I took notes. You guys covered almost everything. And a lot of it, I agreed with it. And a lot of it, I think, it was just different farther north. I fished farther north.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I fish in the Manasquan River. And I think that opening day was a lot better than I anticipated. The water temperature was 54 degrees. Purposely put the boat in around the change of the tide for outgoing. So we were hoping that the warmer water would be, all of the sun would heat up the water in the back and push all of that out during the outgoing. It did warm up maybe to 56. And in certain parts where it was much shallower, I think it got up to maybe 57-ish. But it's still pretty cold for Fluke opener.
Did you guys get any sun or was it?
No, it was very overcast, foggy, and actually it was misty and rainy. I had my Grundens on almost the whole day. The sun eventually did kind of burn through and warmed everything up and almost kind of had a greenhouse effect. So if you look at my Instagram, I ended up at one point I was in a tank top because of that greenhouse effect from the I got burnt too. Like it felt like a magnifying glass was over the atmosphere because it warmed up fast. I fished 3 times since the opener, and by the third day going, later in the week, I think we're reading 58 degrees. So it did warm up significantly. I don't know if the temperature, I don't know if you guys agree with me on this or not. I don't know if the temperature really had much of an effect on them. I think that the biggest issue that we were having was the current. So I'm fishing in a 17-foot center console, and I think that we were just drifting either 0 miles an hour. We were like, there was no drift. It was slack tide, which you guys talked about slack tide too. No bites on slack tide unless you're moving. They're not going to, if you're just sitting there jigging in one spot and you're not moving, they're literally just watching the jig go up and down, up and down, up and down. They're not following it because they're just sitting around it, watching it go up and down, wondering what it is. They're not going to bite it. But, if you're actually moving, you're drifting in front of different fish, you're drifting in potholes like you guys were talking about. But there was no drift at first. And then once the wind picked up and it was windier than anticipated, we were like a sail. We were drifting 1.5 miles.
Right.
And there was no in between, So the fluke aren't going to go if they're not going to chase down a fish that's going 1.5 miles an hour. It was either too fast or too slow.
That's an important point. A lot of people say, well, Skinner goes at 1.2 miles per hour. He's also offshore. 1.2 miles an hour. It could be too fast. I mean, think about how far they have to swim to catch up to something that just went by them.
1.5 miles in the river, I think, is very fast.
Well, it's funny. Participation Trophy Fishing sent me that email with those pictures, and I think he said they were drifting 4 miles per hour.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, at that point, you have to have a bowling ball on the end of your line to even be on the bottom still.
Yeah, that's not even trolling motor fast. That's not even bump the outboard. That is stick it in gear.
Pedal drive kayak at full bore.
Yeah, literally in a pedal drive, that is full speed into the current, trying to fight that off. So yeah, the currents are definitely going to be a problem. I don't know that I think the temperatures didn't help last week, but the thing is this, it's still in their feeding zone. It's not their optimal feeding zone, but look, They got to live, they got to eat, They may not be going off, and, I don't know if you've ever seen a flounder blitz. It's pretty cool, but, where they actually will come out of the water and chase the jumping, spearing and everything.
I've only seen that at night.
I've only seen it. I think I've only seen it at night, and I've seen it on video more than I so it's in the temperature. They're eating, but they're, until it hits 60, I'm not feeling great about it, but they're here. They're definitely here. You can definitely catch. And I'm just looking for the shallow or the really deep areas. But for me personally, I'm looking shallow, and it looks like most people, there was a comment in here, Manasquan caught one keeper today, and it was in 12 feet of water, 54 degrees. So yeah, I don't know. Is it the temperatures? I think the temperatures mean that they're not going to be going off yet, but again, they still got to eat. You just got to find the right time. But let's go back. I mean, the cool part about flounder, right? You mentioned it, is the way that you can kind of stalk them and how they stalk the baits as they go by.
Yeah. I got to get a camera down there because I got to see it for myself.
Yeah, I have one. It's pretty cool. They're actually harder to use than you would think.
I have a Spydro. I want to throw it in the garbage. It's awful. It's like Norwegian or something, so the directions aren't very clear, and I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, you got to figure out like the distance to put on the leader and the weight, and then you don't know when you're actually when your bucktail is on the bottom, because you have this big heavy camera in front of it. So you're
just trying to get the thing to turn on at this point. Every time I go to use it, it's like not turning on. I'm like, forget it.
Yeah, I have the Go Fish camera, and it works okay, but it does take video editing in order to get it to work properly. So let's jump in. There's a question, and it's something that I wanted to talk about that James Flynn is asking. Do you ever use bait, or are you just using gulp?
Okay, so I really don't use much live bait. Occasionally, if I can find it. I'm terrible at a cast net, so mostly gulp. But sometimes I use strip bait, sometimes I use squid strips. But gulp is my go-to. But the thing is, and this was something that I literally wrote a note on about last week's stream. You guys talked about what shape I think the gulp is, or color, or both actually. And I had sent you a picture. I don't know if you kept it. My top hook. So I fish bucktail on the bottom and a dropper loop with a teaser on top. Occasionally I'll do a naked hook with just a piece of gulp, but the top hook is always what catches. And every time I caught a fish, it would always be puking up these super tiny little grass shrimp. So I ended up doing the gulp shrimp. And that's what I limited out on was actually, I literally tied a gulp, or I tied a little like imitation shrimp teaser.
Yep.
And it was like a light pink, and I put a shrimp gulp on the end of it, and that's literally what I limited out with. And we were throwing back overs all day with that.
That's awesome.
So
I love the teasers, to be honest with you.
Yes.
But you're putting the shrimp up top.
Yes. So that was a thing. Like I wanted to test it out. I wanted to, I like experimenting. But I knew that they were eating shrimp. So that's what I wanted to mimic, obviously. You know how with gulp, a lot of the times you're like, it's either the scent or that tail that is getting them to bite. And with the shrimp, I was like, I'm not getting that tail wiggle with the shrimp. It doesn't wiggle like the swimming mullet that we use. So I was actually pretty surprised that they went for the shrimp anyway. So it must be that it was mimicking shrimp, not some movement that they were looking at. And it was a white shrimp, I think.
See, it's funny you say shrimp, because down here, I mean, I've never caught one that spit up a shrimp. It's always been little crabs, little calicos and stuff like that. So I'm wondering, maybe because you're in the river and we're more in the bays. I don't know.
That's just what they were. I mean, they were tiny too, like microscopic. They were really tiny. So I was actually even surprised that they were eating even the gulp shrimp, because it's like at least 3 or 4 inches of shrimp. So
yeah, so I use the shrimp no matter where I am. I always start the day with a shrimp on there, and I catch a lot on that, which is why I always start with that.
Really?
But the grass shrimp that I find in their stomachs when I catch and harvest one, they're about the size of your thumbnail. I mean, they're really small.
Yeah.
They're what the cheap Chinese restaurants put in the in the shrimp.
It literally looked like a tiny cooked shrimp.
Yeah, in the what's it called? The fried rice, the shrimp fried rice. They're like literally the size of your thumbnail. They're so small. That's what they're spitting up, or they're not spitting it up. That's what I'm pulling out of their stomachs when I check and see what they were eating. That and a lot of spearing, actually.
Later in the year, I get a lot of other fish, but right now it was only the shrimp.
I can't say that I would ever go out without having some shrimp gulps with me. I would say I will use live baits. It's tough on a kayak, and it takes a lot to get me to do it, but I would do it for a tournament. I would absolutely go out with some live bait, because there are some days where it will just absolutely outproduce the gulps. I don't care what Skinner says. I don't care what anybody says. There are certain days where a live bait is just going to outperform. And I think it's when it's a really tough day and you have the live bait, I always turn to the mud minnow with a strip of squid on top of it. So it's like a little sandwich. And if I'm not getting it on that and I'm not getting it on gulp, they're just not biting.
Time to go home.
Yeah. Now, have you ever tried the spearing gulps? They're the real gray, thin, long gulps.
I mean, I'll probably eventually try it. I'm waiting for them to make you guys call them mud minnows. Up here we call them killies.
Yeah.
Why don't they make a killie gulp pattern?
I don't know. It doesn't make much sense to me. I like using white before anything else, or natural, which is why I really like the new penny shrimp. It's at least closer to natural.
Mm-hmm.
Although when I was down south, I did pick up some shrimp that were in a color that you really don't find up here. It was even more natural. And those, I actually killed the entire container of them, catching flounder down south. And then I caught some up here. Now I tried I think it's a spearing gulp, it's terrible. The thing is
Really?
absolutely terrible.
Why? There's no articulated tail or anything
There's
like
no
that?
flex in it. It's just like a stick bait. It's just a
Really?
stick out there, and
Does it say spearing, or is it trying to mimic
No.
a sand eel?
maybe it's a sand eel. I don't know what it is, but it's like straight out. And you know how gulp has different materials that they use for different baits?
Yep.
It's one of those alternate ones where literally one bite and it's done. You know, there's like no give to it. There's no flex. It's a fluke bites it and a fluke bites it and it's done. You get a little sea bass or a puffer. It's literally one bite and it's done. It was so frustrating.
That sounds like a waste of money.
Yeah.
Have you used the gulp that look like little lobsters? Have you seen them yet?
Yes. Actually, I use those on bottom fishing trips for ling.
Really? What are they, like crayfish or are they lobsters?
I don't know what they're labeled as, but they look like little crawfish, but they have little claws.
Yeah, I rig them backwards. So the claws and everything dangle. Like they got little fingers and they're pretty neat.
Yeah. I haven't found them in the stores though, only on like charters and stuff like that.
They come in a, I think Dick sells them. They come in a jar.
I don't go to that store.
Well.
Sorry.
Good luck on your gulp adventures then.
I'll find it.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple people saying the sand eel gulp is definitely what you want to have on later in the season. I will say I agree on the sand eel. I just don't know about the gulp part of it. Ed, you made some teasers. I know they can't see it on the podcast, but you know, it's a sand eel profile. And then you can put the gulp underneath it just to give it a little flavor and a little bit more tail on there. I think that might work if I try those crappy gulps that I got. And let's be honest, it is also possible that I just bought an old bag and it was like aged gulp, you know?
Yeah, but you found that like the different colors even are made out of different materials.
Yeah.
Like I found that the one that's like nuclear chicken where it's half green and half pink, it's so much stiffer than the other like white or pink. Like the pink is super soft.
Right. The pink definitely is. The pink, you can go through pink real quick.
I wonder if it has to do with the pigments that they use or something that make it different.
I'm sure.
I don't know what it is. I just know that the sand eel one, I think they probably were sand eels rather than spearing, but they were terrible. They were absolutely terrible. I actually ended up taking the whole thing of them last year behind Margate and I just threw them overboard. Which I probably shouldn't have done. I was thinking, you know, they are biodegradable, I think.
Yes, I've looked into this because this matters to me. I've looked into and in fact, I plan on doing like a video on this because I've always wanted to like experiment and literally do like the theory and the control and, you know, do an experiment on the gulp and make sure that it actually is biodegradable because they claim it is. But the thing is, gulp is supposedly water soluble. So if you have a bag of gulp that dried out that didn't have the solution in it, it's never gonna, the solution that it comes in is just to recharge it. It's not to rehydrate it. So in order to get it to be flexible again and not dried out, you put it in water, not the solution, because it's water soluble.
Okay, so that right there is a pro tip because I'm looking right now. I forgot to take one off of that bucktail over there in the corner.
Yeah, put it in water.
So instead of almost slicing my hand off, trying to cut it off with a knife.
I mean, you have to soak it in water.
I have plenty of time. I'm not going until Friday.
There you go.
Okay, well, there's a tip from Elle. Elle, thank you very much for showing up tonight.
We'll see you again.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping by. I never knew that.
I plan on doing a lot more experiments with gulp because it fascinates me.
Yeah, I actually was pretty concerned for quite a while that it was just not good stuff to be putting in the water. But I did read that it's, well, you can only trust Berkeley so far just because they're the ones who make it. Just like you can only trust any manufacturer so far on what they claim their stuff does. But
there's nothing to regulate it. Who's regulating soft baits, you know?
No, just lead. Just lead in California. That's the only thing that they're regulating so far. And well, and the hooks, I guess.
Everything in California causes cancer.
Yeah. So
only in California though.
So I ended up throwing that whole bag in the water. I was so angry. Funny. John just looked at me like I was an idiot because he was fishing next to me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I just took the whole bag and threw it. I think honestly they were old. I'm not going to mention the tackle shop that I got them from, but I had another thing of gulp from there. And it was just not good. It was actually shrunken up. So it had dried out. So maybe it was old. I don't know, but it was the only time I ever used those. So that was the only the only reference that I had.
Well, I'll get it and do an experiment on it then.
All right, cool. So keep us up to date on that. All right, so you're not going with the live baits.
No.
Ed, you're not going with the live baits.
Very rarely, unless I'm fishing with the kids. If I'm with the kids in the boat, then they get minnows and squid, and gulp's too expensive.
All right, so I will use it for a tournament. Now, here's the big question. I have my own thoughts on this. What kind of jigging presentation are you doing? Are you doing crazy Skinner jigs, or are you doing the slow up and down? Do you have a pattern or a cadence?
Yeah, I do a faster jig style. I've got the theory of the more movement, the better. Although I will say occasionally, like, here's the thing. The fish love to bite when I'm on my phone. Like, I'll be like looking at Instagram because somebody just messaged me or something. And that's when I get a hit. And I think it's because I'm not paying attention and my jigging pattern changed. I'm not paying attention that I didn't do it on purpose, but my jigging pattern must have changed, and that's what made them hit. So I just go on my phone when it's a slow bite.
So think about that though. So okay, you have the regular Skinner continuous fast jigging, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the slow pattern up and down, or what I used to call drunk uncle, which means you just put it in the back of the boat in the rod holder. He's drunk and just sitting there watching it, and he's just going with the waves. Yeah. But think about if you were going to cast out and retrieve for flounder. One of the most famous retrieves is the twitch pause. You know, think about topwater. You're always putting a pause in it, and it's usually the hit on the pause. Yeah. So I do a slower jig, and sometimes I'll speed it up, sometimes I'll slow it down, but I'm always changing it. You know, part of it might just be because I just don't have the forearms, the Popeye forearms to be continuously jigging like Skinner does, nor the patience. It just annoys me, you know, to keep doing it. So I just want to slow down every once in a while, but I do tend to get them on the pauses.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to work them in.
Really quick, Jack West, he mentioned fish bites. I actually just got a bunch of packs of fish bites because, again, I'm obsessed with gulp and I'm annoyed that like they monopolize the whole thing. They have a proprietary blend of plastic that they use that's water soluble and it's patented. Nobody else can get that proprietary blend of plastic. So I'm on a mission to try everything. And I got fish bites. I feel like it's definitely not as stretchy. I feel like I honestly don't even recall even getting any hits on that one. Maybe one. And that was on the lower hook, which was probably the only one out of the 3 days on the lower hook. So far, I actually don't like the fish bites. Maybe it'll change as the year goes on, but the tail was nice. It had a good squiggly tail, but I don't think the scent didn't smell very strongly. Like the plug bait, I've tried the plug bait and I like that better. That stuff stinks. Yeah. Ed doesn't like it.
You could dump that plug bait. You could dump that liquid into your boat motor and you wouldn't need oil. Like that.
I know, yes.
Bad.
Hard rule, you can only open that container over the bait tray. That does not go near any other part of the boat other than on the bait tray because it's very slippery if it gets on the deck. So beware of the plug bait. But like I said, it did work a lot better than so far the fish bites.
See, I like fish bites. I think they have
really?
Yeah.
But it's a grub. It's not the strip.
Were you talking about the Fight Club, Fish Bites Fight Club or whatever?
I have a pack.
I'm talking about the strip.
No. They made a grub that looks like gulp. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I tried.
Can't imagine that they would take those little strips and use that same thing to make up an entire grub. You know, so I would imagine it's going to have reduced scent on it.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, what's the action like on it though? Is the question.
And I actually took a video of it, but because somebody asked me to show it to them.
I think it's different than the strips because those strips have like a mesh inside them to hold them together and stuff.
Yeah, you go king fishing, and by the end of the day, your entire hook is just a whole bunch of mesh.
Yeah, exactly.
From all of them. Yeah, because they're also a pain to get off too over the barb.
I just rip them off, but we use them when we go down. We'll go down to Brigantine at night.
Yeah, Fight Club. Okay, and you just don't feel like it's as good.
Like a stiffer plastic. It's in like you can't stretch it. I feel like it's kind of like gonna be like the sand eel things that you were talking about, where they was too hard and they're just gonna like snap instead of like be bendy and
So they're not
stretchy.
like the Z-Mans.
No, those things you can pull like 3 feet and they would never break. I've tried those too, and I like those better than these. So disappointed. I thought that these were going to be really good. The action on the tail is good. The scent I don't think is good, and it kind of smells like it just doesn't have a strong scent. It's slightly fishy, but it's just not strong.
Well, the real question is, when something like that comes on the market, is it good enough to displace Gulp? Because if it's not, you may as well not even buy it. It's probably the same price, right? It's like $6-7.
Yep.
Yeah. So
and actually, I think I found it. I found that they might even be slightly more expensive because I kept finding good deals on Gulp.
I wouldn't do it. What I would rather use an unscented or even a scented soft plastic like Z-Man or Northeast Jig and just put some Procure on it. I know Procure works.
Listen, the amount of Gulp, plug bait, and fish bites that I have, I don't need to put scent on anything ever again.
It's already pre-scented.
I think plug bait went out of business or something. I heard.
Yeah, they're not. They got a lot of crap. I liked it. A lot of people kind of just said, "Oh, it's just a regular soft plastic that you put the finesse oil on," which it's true, but they came up with it and you didn't. So why are you hating?
I mean, I caught a striper on it. I just couldn't get over the oil. It just made a mess everywhere.
I know. Yes. No. Literally, you put it down and there's an oil slick on the water, and that's what people had such a problem with. But
yeah, see, for kayak fishing, that ain't any good. There's Salt Strong makes one. I think it's called Dr. Juice, and it apparently works really well. But it also stains and it smells like murdered animals rotting. I mean, it's got the scent and it works, but it just destroys. It destroys everything that touches it. Like people are saying, you cannot take your clothes in the house. You cannot wash your clothes with other clothes. So to me, that doesn't work. I mean, you're in a kayak, you're going to get it on you.
Oh yeah.
It's 100%. And Bill's asking in the chat, have you ever tried any soft plastics from Salt Strong, like the Slam Shady? So the Slam Shady is actually a color of a Z-Man paddle tail. Now they also have non-Z-Man Slam Shady color that's proprietary to them, and they are scented. I've used them. They work awesome. I personally switched over to Northeast because small company. Salt Strong's not a huge company, but it's not a local small company. So I switched over to Northeast Jig, but they do work. The Slam Shady is a color, and in that paddle tail, like the diesel minnows or they're smaller ones, they do work. But that actually is a good lead into something I was going to ask you, Elle. The whole concept behind the Slam Shady for flounder and this regular paddle tail, it's just picture a regular paddle tail. It's like a white with some gold and silver flecks in it.
Okay.
The concept with that for Fluke is Florida fishing. So you're casting, you're not doing vertical jigging because 90% of it is under 5 feet. Most of their fishing is going to be under 3 feet or under 2 feet. Do you ever do that type of fishing where you're casting out and retrieving as your primary for the day, or do you just never do that, or you just do it opportunistically?
I will only do that if there's no current, like if there's no drift, that's when I'll cast and retrieve it that way. Otherwise, I'll let the boat do all the work and drift. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Ed, what are you doing?
I'm bouncing off the bottom. I don't think I've ever cast it out for a flounder.
Really? See, I do cast. It depends on where I am. I'll cast when there's docks around. I'll cast when I'm in a creek. I'll cast at a point and let it kind of suck it around the end and into the current. But it's something that nobody does up here. Now, you can't really do it when it's 30 feet of water. Doesn't make any sense. But when I'm in those shallow creeks, I love doing it. And Andrew's saying the Z-Man, that's different from Salt Strong Slam Shady. The Salt Strong Slam Shady is a Z-Man. The original Slam Shady is the Slam Shady color of the Z-Man minnows, the paddle tails. Now, because Z-Man couldn't keep up with production for all the sales that Salt Strong was making, Salt Strong went off and they now manufacture it separately from Z-Man as well. So there's two kinds. There's the Slam Shady which is again the color paddle tail from Z-Man, and then there's the Slam Shady 2.0, which is their proprietary non-Z-Man version. It is not as strong as the Z-Man though. It's not the 10 times tough. It's definitely not. They'll bite through those. Yeah, just so people know, there's definitely a difference between those. It's not as durable. I personally prefer actually the non Z-Man version, the 2.0 for the Slam Shady if you're going to use it. Yeah, but I like casting out and retrieving. And I guess, up here you really don't see that unless they're fishing from shore or sod banks next to the shallows.
True.
So I've never felt the need for it with the kayak. I mean, we can create our own drift. We can move. We can do our, you know what I mean? So I've never felt the need to cast out. So
here's the time that I do it the most. If I'm going to go into a creek mouth, let's say it's incoming tide, right? And it's going to push the kayak, and I'm going to make it so it pushes me up into a creek. So I come around that point into that creek. I'm then going to paddle into the current once I get around. I'm going to drift in. And then once I get into there and past the point, I'm going to just keep paddling into the current. So I'm stationary, and I'm going to keep casting. So I get that point and I can work the entire intake, from the left side to the middle to the shallow side on the outside, or actually it's usually the deeper side on the outside. And I'm going to continually work it that way rather than having to drift it every single time. Because to me, that's just a lot more effort. I've done really well doing that. I have a lot of videos actually doing that.
I don't know how I would do that on a boat.
Yeah.
It's all just more reason to get a kayak.
Yeah.
No, I can't. I cannot. I'm not coordinated enough. I cannot do it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get you out on one at some point. We'll try.
I have two. That's the crazy part. I have two kayaks. I do not fish from them.
It's not for everybody. We like to pretend it is, and it's not. It's not for everybody. Some people just don't like it, and it's totally understandable if you don't like fishing from a kayak.
But you never know until you try.
I've tried.
I'm sure she's tried, right? You have two.
I've tried.
But they're paddle ones, right?
Yeah, they're not foot pedal.
Okay, so you kind of tried.
I'm sure that makes a huge difference.
It does make a big difference. Now let's jump back to the gulp real quick. Do you store the different colors together, or do you keep them separate?
Yeah, so I have multiple jars. I have 3 like tubs of jars of gulp, and so I have the new box of gulp, and it's literally like gulp, like slotted in like a filing cabinet.
Yep.
And then I have my used gulp, and it has multiple jars. So there's there's the small gulp.
I thought I had a problem.
Well, you do.
It's very organized. It's all labeled. One of these days I'm going to show you guys, and you're going to be like, okay, a girl was definitely in here. So it's labeled small gulp, and then the big gulp has its own jar, and that's the used gulp jars. And yes, I do put everything in. Now, the only color the only discoloration that I ever see is usually with a white, because if you notice in the packages of white, the liquid in it is clear. And in certain other colors, it's red or orangey.
Yeah.
And when you mix them, I think the reason why they do that is because white will end up getting discolored. So really the only color that I ever see discolored is white or anything light colored like that.
Interesting. Ed, what are you doing? You're also extremely organized.
No, I'm not. Have you seen you've been in my garage? No, I'm not. Gulp, it all goes into a bucket. I have one of those Plano gulp things. It comes with the little tongs. Tongs.
Do you use the tongs?
No, I don't know where they went.
Okay.
He would not be allowed to go fishing with us if he used the tongs.
Oh, now I'm going to find them. Now I'm going to find them and bring them with me.
Please use them.
And then I have a couple of jars of regular gulp. Like they sell a saltwater medley. It's like crabs, the shrimps, it's all kinds of stuff in one jar. So I got like a couple of those. Yeah, at Dick's. You don't go there.
Nope.
It all goes in my crate. So,
and I also use those Plano things. I think I have 6 different of those Plano containers, and I do something totally different. Now the whites, so I won't just dump brand new packs in there anymore, but I have all 6 of them are set up so I can just grab one, and it has an entire variety in there. So they're absolutely jam packed with everything from new penny shrimp to 6-inch grubs. And I'll usually grab two because, I'll look and see, all right, this one seems to be more whites. So I'll grab this one. And here's one that's more oranges or reds or something like that. And I'll grab that. So I'll go with 2 containers every time, but I absolutely totally mix them up. The only things I don't really put in there are like the gulp crabs, the shedder crabs. I keep those separate.
I've never used those.
They work really well for flounder. They work really well for anything, really.
I've thought of using them for tog.
I have, yeah.
Just to see.
They'll catch them. They'll definitely catch them. But I catch a lot of weakfish, flounder, and striped bass on them because all 3 of them eat crabs all day long, and they're about the size of a small calico.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely use those.
Now, can we talk about the leak-proof seals that are on these bags that always leak?
Yeah.
So once you open a bag, it has to go in a container, right? Or is it just?
Yeah. So in my Fluke bucket, I have a bag of opened like gulp zipper packs. When there's only a few left in there, then they go into the mixed jars. The jars are like old Talenti jars, or I don't know, like food jars. They only stay in that bucket. They'll never. I try to keep it very organized. It only goes in that bucket. That's the gulp bucket.
And how long do you keep them? What's the oldest single piece of gulp that you have?
Oh, years. They last forever, and I use them forever.
Have you ever had gulp go rancid?
No.
No.
Can they?
Yes.
I have very old gulp. I've never had a problem with it. I do also keep, and you're going to think I'm crazy for this, I keep gulp without tails.
Well, that's crazy. No, actually, I do that too. I don't know why.
Jar, because one of these days I'm going to invent something where you can use the rest of the gulp after it loses its tail and become a millionaire.
Funny side story. That's how Captain Hanks originally, the idea of Captain Hanks came about. We wanted to invent something to be better than gulp. But then I realized I wasn't a chemical engineer and I gave it up. But that's how it started.
They have a proprietary blend that's patented.
Yeah, and that they invented it by accident too, which is even more maddening. And nobody's been able to replicate it.
Yeah.
I do keep them without the tails, but if they have holes in them and everything, I'll eventually just toss those. There's a point being brought up. You can use them for triggerfish. You can use them for sea bass.
Yeah,
and things like that.
For sea bass.
I don't target either of those typically, so I wouldn't save anything for those. But now that it's mentioned, maybe it's a good idea, because then you always have that emergency bait just in case. I actually tend to keep them just because
they were $1 a piece.
Yeah, they were $1 a piece, and if I run out of ones with tails, at least I'll still have something because they'll still catch.
Put a little otter tail on the end. I got otter tails. They're like basically like a strip bait with the curly on the end.
Yeah,
and I do like those. Sometimes if it's just completely maddening that the sea bass are biting off the tails while fluking and sea bass is out of season, then I'll just throw on an otter tail with a gulp body. So that way you get the tail action and the scent at the same time.
There's very few things more annoying than sea bass out of season inshore.
Yeah.
Even if they're in season inshore, it's just, little 12-inch fish. You're like, the hell?
Otter tails remind me of plug bait. Whatever they put on the otter tails is very similar.
Yeah, there's an oil on it. It's not as bad though.
No.
I haven't used it.
We need to save all your gulps, Rich, and then we can auction them off. Fat Dad used gulps.
Yeah. That has absolutely no value.
Well, hey, everything's valuable to some people. I mean, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can melt them down.
I doubt it, just because.
Throw some in a Pyrex cup and microwave them, because that's how you melt down regular plastic. See what happens.
I'm telling you, this summer I'm gonna experiment on gulp like nobody's business.
Good luck.
Thanks.
All the best of luck to both of you. and you're using the Plano, and Elle, what are you using to keep them?
Any jar that I can find that has a screwed on lid.
Yeah. Well, you're on a boat though, so they're not typically going to be tipping over and laying on their side.
No, and like I said, it really doesn't leave the gulp bucket.
Yeah, I used to use peanut butter containers until they realized they leak all over the back of my truck. So then, of course, I kept using them until I remembered that they leak all over my truck. And then I finally went and got a whole bunch of those Plano things, which, by the way, if you're in a kayak, especially, and they're out in the sun all day, those things will crack after about a year. So then you know what happens? It leaks all over the back of your truck. So
I can smell your truck from here.
It's terrible. It's terrible. So you got
maybe that's what was on the back window.
It could. Well, I don't know. It's still there.
You mean after all this rain, it still didn't go away?
It's on the inside.
Oh gosh.
It was something on one of the hooks. I don't know. Maybe there's seaweed or something. I don't know. And it never dries, so it's kind of like oil. I think it actually was something that came through on one of those hard storms, like through the window in the back, and just kind of leaked. Okay. But yeah, so gulp is just terrible in a truck, especially in the summer.
Rest in peace to Andrew's front passenger seat.
I spilled a whole tub on my passenger seat. Yeah.
Do you have to list it on the Carfax?
Yeah, probably put in an insurance claim. I hope that your wife or significant other doesn't ever want to get in that car again, because that stuff is tough to get out. That is just a bad deal.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine.
All right, so let's move on. So what are you using for terminal tackle? You said that you're using a high-low, but what exactly are you doing with it?
I just do the dropper loop with here's the thing. In the ocean, I'm fishing a lot longer leader line. Right. Because if you get stuck on the bottom, you're constantly cutting or whatever. Although I'm pretty good at getting unstuck, but a longer leader line, because by the time you're retying, you got like this much leader line left, and it's like now you have to retie the whole thing. But I just tie mono to braid, and I don't use any snaps or swivels or anything like that.
Are you using an FG or a uni to uni?
You know what? I know the name of, or I know how to tie it, and I don't even know the name of it.
Okay.
You know what? It's the surgeon's knot. It's a double surgeon's knot. I remembered.
Okay.
Go brain.
All right.
That's what I use.
So you could still reel that straight in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how long of a leader are you using offshore? Now, let me rephrase that, because you're going extra just so you don't have to keep retying. How much leader are you putting between the dropper loop and the end, the bucktail or whatever?
Like a foot.
Oh, so you're within a foot even offshore.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I'm actually going up to around 2 feet offshore.
Really?
18 inches to 2 feet. Now here's the big question. When you're jigging, are you bouncing it off the bottom, or are you like you're touching the bottom, or are you keeping it off the bottom?
No, it touches the bottom every bounce.
So you're bouncing it off the bottom.
Yes.
And Ed, that's what you're doing as well, right?
Not always. Sometimes I will bring it up a couple inches and work it up. So like where I have my rod tip comfortable, if I drop the tip down, I'll feel bottom, but more my jigging is in this area. So yeah, I'm not always on the bottom. Sometimes it depends. Really.
That's what I try to do. I try not, I do the jigging, and then, you have to maintain contact with the bottom though. So, every 3 or 4 jigs, I'll just dip the tip until it hits. And if it doesn't, I let out line to keep it right off the bottom, which I think is probably why I don't get snagged very often. I just don't like churning up the bottom. And again, that comes from watching those videos,
The Fluke videos.
Yeah, there's nothing more annoying than seeing a bucktail just getting dragged and plowing through the sand. It's like the video that you showed me with the Spro bucktail.
Oh yeah,
just getting dragged. That was an interesting video. Let's talk about that real quick. Those Spro style minnow head bucktails. This video showed one being retrieved through the sand, just a straight retrieve, no action or anything. The thing was being pulled in sideways.
It was laying on its side.
It was laying on its side and getting pulled. It looked ridiculous.
Were they just dead sticking it, or?
They were reeling it in, but they weren't giving it any action. They let it go out to the bottom, and they just started reeling, and it was just plowing a furrow in the bottom, but it was going sideways.
I wonder if it was heavy for the current too.
Well, it might have been, but I think it was mainly because it's not tied. Those bucktails, the eyelet is not at the top. It's back a little bit. So
the Spros?
Yep.
They're nose heavy. So you'll have a 90. Yeah, you have a 90-degree hook. Whereas like a ball jig, I don't have any in front of me. The angle of the hook comes out in the front.
I can unwrap one of these new Captain Hanks one.
Oh, you can show the packaging too, Rich.
Oh, I just ripped the packaging. Here's the packaging.
Fancy new packaging.
Yeah, so people on the podcast can't see this, but
You don't like the Spros? Oh, this is the Fat Dad Fishing.
but it's not even that.
Bucktail,
It's
right?
any one of those. Look at where the eyelet is compared to yours.
I see what you mean.
So when this is getting pulled, it's getting pulled straight. Whereas if you have it in the middle and it's pulling with the front digging, it's pulling it to the side a little bit. So it's
Okay.
so it comes in, instead of coming straight in, it's coming in like, offset a little bit. And it just looks absolutely ridiculous. Most
people would be jigging it. They wouldn't be just regular retrieving it. So for one like this, it's going to go, I mean, I like using all of this stuff. But for like this, when it's being pulled up by this, it kind of does like a little,
correct,
like an arc.
Right.
So I wonder how the action is on that. Honestly, the thing that I use 99.9% of the time is a Fluke ball. And I know that I get a lot of hate for it. A lot of people don't like the Fluke ball.
Why?
I don't know.
I've never used
I have one right here.
What's their excuse? What is wrong with that?
This is what I use. The reason why I love it so much is because it has a brow swivel on it. So it does spin. So the bait has even more action on it.
Right.
Plus I have found that because I mostly ocean fish for Fluke, I have found that the because it's a ball, it's round, it's not getting like jammed into rocks and everything, and it's just so much easier to unsnag if you do get stuck, and it doesn't get as stuck as much as the other shapes. But with the one that you guys have now, if the eyelet is on the front, I feel like it's not going to get wedged in as much. That would probably be a beneficial, like if you're going to fish sticky stuff, I feel like that would be a really good bucktail to use, because it's not going to get stuck into things because the eye is on the end instead of in the middle. Yeah, well, and this one was, if you, again, podcast, they can't see it, but it's kind of flat, so it actually sits like the upright. It's almost like a tog jig. That was the concept. Yeah. Yep. So it sits more upright with the baits, and then you're jigging. You can use those for tog too. Then exactly.
The hooks are too long.
Well, the hooks are, but the style would work. I mean, it's essentially the same. It's a tog jig with the longer shank and the bucktail tied onto it. But a lot of people like a longer shank on their tog jigs. I don't, but some people do, because they like to weave the leg into the shank of the hook. But let's go back to the Fluke ball. Sorry. I don't see what's wrong with the Fluke ball though. I love it.
I want to try one. I can't find a mold small enough though, because all the ones I find are 2 ounce or bigger.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think they make anything less than 2 ounce. Because and I never really noticed, because I'm either fishing the river, which I would use probably 2 ounces, maybe lighter on those days where there's no drift. So I would have to switch to something else. But I literally, this is a 6 ounce. This is what I would be using on a day where we're sailing through the ocean.
I don't even have a rod that can hold a 6 ounce.
I would say for me, if I have to go 2 ounces or more, I'm going home. I'm not even.
Well, but offshore.
I'm gonna try it.
But you're talking inshore. No. You're talking inshore, Ed. She's talking offshore, out front.
I mean, technically, it's still inshore. It's not farther than 3 miles.
Yeah, but how
between
deep
3 and 8 miles is how far.
Yeah, but how deep are you?
About 80 feet. It's between 60 and 80 feet.
Well, so when I say offshore, I mean you're in a different depth. We're fishing up to 35, 40 max, and you're not even looking until you drop off to 60 to 80.
Correct. Yeah.
With the structure. If you're fishing reliefs, right? Now, if you're fishing a wreck, it could be a little bit more shallow. But Diesel had a good point in the chat. He's like, we're all fishing back bays this season. Can't afford to fuel up the boats to go out front. Absolutely. So
that's why I have a small boat.
Yeah, you need the small boat.
Honestly, I need to get away from people. I cannot fish the river the entire year. I will lose my mind, especially when it gets warmer and there's a gazillion people. So yeah.
I can't stand people. No.
Nope. That's why I'm off. I'm 3 miles away. I will not go anywhere in the river in the summer. I'm only in the river now because the Fluke aren't in the ocean right now. So
yeah, I like to go in the backwaters where I can hide and then just give mean looks to the jet skis when they come back. They come back in the little creeks. But then every once in a while, you see like a 95-year-old crabber coming back, and I just get out of their way. I'm like, mad respect to you, and they go flying right up the creeks. I'm like, all right, you just go do your thing, man. I'll get out of your way. Yeah, the Fluke balls, I like them. I have used those out front. I won't say offshore, but out front in deeper water. But the concept for inshore meaning backwaters right now, it's more like it's like a swing jig.
So on opening day, I did use the 2 ounce because the wind ended up picking up and the drift was kind of fast. And I did catch a few on that one. That was before I tried the shrimp teaser thing. I think I tried that the second day. So on opening day, I had just a regular, I don't know, what do they call them? Geezer teasers. I made it. I just threw one on and it's always the upper hook. But I did catch a few on the bottom one with a Fluke ball and gulp.
And so, what depth were you in where you're using the 2 ounce?
It really depended on where, but basically just fishing the channel. So it was about anywhere between 10 and 15 feet, if
really?
That.
2 ounce. I was using 3/4 and I felt that was heavy.
I know. I'm probably going to get crap for it.
No.
I like to feel the bottom.
You use whatever the hell works for you, Elle.
Thanks.
Don't let anyone give you any trouble.
Well,
people that complain are the ones that aren't catching.
To play the John Creeley in the group, what type of rod are you using? Because that might have something to do with it too.
So if when I fish the river, I'm using a spinner. I use my all-purpose St. Croix Premier 7-foot medium heavy with a Stratic on it. And if I'm fishing the ocean, if it's not like crazy current, sometimes I fish with my spinning rod if my hands hurt. But otherwise, I'm usually, and if the current is bad and I have to put on a cannonball in the end, I'm using my Shimano Travala with, and you guys were talking about this reel at the last
the Runkle?
live stream. What?
The Runkle?
No, the Daiwa Lexa.
Oh.
It's a great little reel.
That's a high-end reel. It's a high-end great little reel.
It's a good one.
It is. I'm not going to say it's not a good one. I've used John's and I liked it. My biggest problem with it was that it was a right-handed reel and I reel left-handed.
Oh, okay.
That was my only issue with his reel when he let me use it. It's a really nice reel.
Yeah, that power handle.
You don't need it for a Fluke though. You don't have to, but if you can, it's like saying you don't need a Stratic. Yeah, but if you can, Stratic is nice and smooth, and
I have some good stuff.
And you weren't you using a Quantum before?
No,
Okuma.
Yeah, I had an Okuma. Yeah, and I got a lot of garbage for that.
Yeah, again, who cares?
Why? They're great.
People just complain about me all the time. Whatever. Come fishing with me. I'll show you. We can catch.
I use Penn Pursuit, the Pursuit 3. It's like a $35, $40 reel. And I don't care what anybody says. I'm catching fish. And it's not like a Fluke. Even a double digit is really going to put a test to that.
That's very true.
You know, it's 18 pounds of drag. It's the same drag that they have on the more expensive, the Fierce and the Battles and even the Slammers. It's the same drag system. So if I'm getting by with $35, $40 reel, why the hell would I switch to a Stratic? Now it's not as smooth as the Stratic. I have a Stratic. It's just a lot.
I got a good deal on the Stratic, so that's why I got it.
I really like them, but
you
don't have to. That's the thing. You don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to apologize for buying what you like.
No.
And to be fair with the Daiwa Alexa, I also use that rod for like all bottom fishing. So sometimes I'll bring it ling fishing and I'm fishing in 100 feet of water. So the power handle it's a multi-purpose. So the power handle really comes in for all my bottom fishing needs.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to want to use like an Accurist out there. You know, I have a Squall that I prefer Penn. So I use a Penn Squall when I'm doing tog and deeper stuff. You get a little bit more drag on there. You get a little bit more capacity and definitely more turning power than you're going to get on these, like the Accurist or the Okuma or the Pursuit or the Fierce. But, you know, kayak fishing I'm using right now because of the reels that I lost or were seized. Yeah, I only have Pursuits and Fierces left.
Not working, not seized as in taken away.
Correct. Not working. They seized up. Tends to happen when you fish in a kayak and they seize up after time. Yeah, those are the only spinning reels I have left, are just those pens at this point. So I was thinking about getting a Stratic, which is now what did they replace it for? The CI4 was replaced with some like hoity-toity name. Anyway, people will know exactly.
Hoity-toity? My mom says that.
Yeah, it's a hoity-toity.
I hope she's watching.
It's one of those names that I feel like I need to wear like docksiders,
bougie.
A teal shirt, and a cloth belt with a whale on it. You know? Oh, it's the Vanford. The Vanford,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that does sound bougie.
Yeah. It sounds like my name is Trent from the country club. No, but those are really nice reels. I was thinking of actually picking one of those up, but
I'll have to look into them.
They're nice. They're smooth. They're pricey, but like I said, if you can afford it and that's what you want, go get. I don't care. Fish a Van Stall. Never apologize.
No, I don't like Van Stalls.
I don't see the point for the type of fishing I do, but never apologize for your equipment, whether it's expensive or inexpensive. I mean, you got John, who's all high end stuff, and he fits right in with me, who fishes cheap stuff. It's all good.
I stay in the middle.
You do stay in the middle. Yeah. Well, I've lost gear, so overboard, so it gets a little pricey to replace it. So
if anything goes overboard, I'm going with it.
Yeah, you gotta really consider that. Definitely. I will next time. It was a little cold. The water was a little cold when I did, so I didn't want to do that. So what braid are you using on there? What pound test?
On my spinner, I have I think 20. And on the bigger one, on the conventional, I probably have 25.
25. The offshore one for the ling and all that. Yeah. I'm using 30 on that one, and I'm using 15 on the others. Now, what leader are you using for Fluke?
Probably like 20. Whatever's in the bag. Around 20 to 30. It depends too. If it's sticky, like I'll probably put on a heavier leader, like 30, because of the chafing.
Gotcha. But you don't think they're leader shy?
No.
Okay. I don't either. Ed?
No.
I've never even considered that.
I think they're just too aggressive. I don't think they care.
No,
I mean, they'll eat anything.
Yeah, I think they see something moving and they just want to investigate. And I think a lot of the time they really just bite it just to see what it is. They just see movement and want to kill it.
They get pissed. They definitely get pissed.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. Maybe that is why they're dropping it. It cuts through, they take a taste, and they're like, nope, done.
Yeah.
And they're off to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they do follow them a lot too, as we've seen.
James asked if there's any bluefish in the inlet, and I'd like to address this because the bluefish are all hype. There's very sporadic bluefish in the Manasquan River. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. I go to the inlet every day and check at slack tide. They're not there. I digress.
That's what people want to know.
I'll tell you, but they're not there.
So like you said, they're sporadic. So they're not there in numbers, but they are moving through from time to time.
It's weird. It's a very weird start.
It is, but then keep in mind, they really don't get thick until June.
April 29th last year, it was like crazy blitz every day.
In the backwaters?
Through the inlet.
In
April
the inlet.
29th, yes. It was, I have pictures, elbow to elbow across the whole inlet. All you can catch bluefish.
I think last year was just like an enigma. I don't know.
The year before was similar.
Was it?
I think it maybe was like a week after, about the first week of May. Like I go back through and look at, we write it down and stuff. And I go back through my Facebook and when everything was caught, and they're late this year.
Well, yeah, last year, the last week of April, first week of May, I caught 36-inch bluefish up in the Raritan. But in the back bays, the next weekend, I couldn't find them. And that was south. I couldn't find them. But 2 weeks after that, so it was Memorial Day weekend or thereabouts. Then I was hitting them in the backwaters down south.
I just think the water is a little cold for them right now. They're here, but not frenzying. We're used to what James is referring to is we're used to these blitzes that are just insanity. People come from Pennsylvania, they hear it, and it's just crazy. But it just has not happened yet.
Which is good. Oh. They're there. I mean, or they will be there. They're just not there yet. I have not seen bluefish like the past 2 years for the previous 10 years. I mean, when you're talking 3-foot bluefish all over the place, I mean, that's that's a pretty good sign compared to where it was just a few years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the regulations have anything to do with it. The new bag limit.
I don't think so. I mean, really, who besides me keeps bluefish on purpose?
You know what, though? People abuse bluefish. People might not be keeping them, but they don't take care of them. They just kick them on the ground and throw them in the garbage just because they're considered trash fish by most people.
That
I don't
breaks
think
my
that
heart.
listen, bluefish are ugly, but it's still, it's still treated with respect. It's very heartbreaking to see people walking off the jetties with literally garbage bags full of them over the bag limit, or thrown in the garbage, or literally just laying on there were so many last year that people were just tossing them in the ground and just leaving them there.
Like, what does that help?
I
You got rid
don't
of
know.
one out of the 43,000 that are in front of you, and that's going to help?
I have no idea.
I've seen videos last year, people doing that to dogfish. They'd catch them on the party boats and they'd like stomp on them and cut them and throw them over. Like, why?
So I was on a party boat that did that. I will never go on that party boat again. I'm not going to say who it was. And it's a shame because everything else was good, but the mates were like not being good. I was like, I didn't say anything. I was like, all right, your boat, my money, you're just not getting it again. And I actually did fish the LBI tournament 2 years ago, I think, with the guy. He invited me to fish with him and his son. And I went up there, and the guy next to us was just like murdering the dogfish every time he caught him. And I thought there was going to be a fight. I was like, oh boy, here we go. I'm not getting involved. But I mean, there was almost violence done because this guy was he wasn't just killing them. He was just like throwing them. He was kicking them. He was stepping on them. Yeah. It's like, okay, it's not right to just kill it, but he was like torturing the thing and he thought it was funny. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you're drinking at 6 a.m. waiting for first light.
I don't know. Those are the kind of people you got to keep an eye on.
Well, the guy I was with almost went over and did some violence, and I wouldn't have. I don't know. It was just not a good scene. I can't stand that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'd probably been beside him. I'd be in on the violence.
Yeah, I'm too old.
If you're not going to keep it and eat it, don't kill it. For what?
I agree.
There's nothing you get from that.
I 100% agree with that. I'm just, even for bait, can you use them for bait anymore? I guess it's as long as you keep them within the limit, but I don't know. Can you, because now it's a regulated fish.
Is it?
Well, I mean,
I'm pretty sure it is. There used to be
it's not by size though, right?
There's a bag limit?
I'm not
on bluefish?
100% sure.
I thought you were talking about dogfish still.
Oh God,
no. Sorry.
No.
Well, dogfish used to be a big thing. There was like a whole industry around it because that's fish and chips. Yep. Like that's what people.
Yeah, people eat those.
Then they shut it down, and then they did something with the regs and drove away a lot of commercial guys. So there's no industry for it anymore.
Yeah, that's what Jim Hutchinson was saying. They killed the entire commercial industry in New Jersey, which was huge for exports to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I like dogfish, actually. They taste good.
Really? I'll have to keep one next time.
Yeah, when you get one, gut it and throw it on ice right away. Like put the ice inside the body cavity and it'll be good. Just literally gut it immediately before you do anything. They secrete
something through their skin?
Yeah.
Pee.
I was trying not to say pee.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. But if you gut them right away and you pack them with ice, they taste really good, especially on the grill, actually. And Fishy Business is saying that there is still a commercial market up in Massachusetts for them. So,
all right, back to bluefish.
Yeah, so bluefish. Can you use bluefish for bait though? Like, what's the deal with that? I honestly don't know.
I think you can because there's no size limit, only a bag limit. But then also, like, how do you prove that you only kept your bag limit? I'm not sure now. Yeah, but people are using live bluefish for tuna fishing.
Well, that's good bait. They're outstanding. The reason I'm asking is because if you want to use a dead cut bait for flounder, bluefish is very good. Bait? Yeah, it's very good. But I don't want to say that it's legal anymore because I don't know. I think it's legal, but I don't know.
Right, because you don't have to prove a length.
Right, but do you have to keep the rack?
Don't get me started on racks.
Okay, gotcha. Fair enough.
Don't get me started on racks.
If you don't have the rack, you didn't catch the fish.
James is saying you have to keep it, I guess, just to show how many. I don't know. But for those that want to use bait, bluefish is a good one. Check your regs. I mean, we have people I see in here We just mentioned Massachusetts. I've also seen Virginia. I don't know the regs in those states. I think Connecticut also, New Jersey, obviously, and then there's also in New York. So there's all different regulations.
Yeah.
Now, as far as using Fluke belly,
I don't use Fluke belly because I don't want any trouble with it.
yeah.
The only thing I've ever really used is triggerfish skin, which was a terrible idea because their skin is like leather and it was very hard to cut strips out of.
Here we go. Chris is saying, let's bring this up here for people to see that are watching. Doesn't feel comfortable being in a Fluke competition without bluefish strips. Out of his 12
he's up in New York, though.
12 double digits, 10
He's in Montauk.
Okay, Chris.
That doesn't count. Montauk fish don't count.
Let me just make something very clear, Chris. I will be over at your house tomorrow, and you're going to take me fishing, and we're going to get on some double digits, and you're going to show me in person exactly how well that works. I do not have my double digit yet. I do not have one.
I don't either.
Me either.
All right, so that's the goal. Here's a good question that I do want to talk about: crabbing and fishing. Has anyone targeted Fluke at night, and do they hit at night? Nighttime for Fluke is freaking amazing.
Really?
Absolutely.
I need to do it now.
If you're ever having problems catching Fluke, fish at night. I love fishing for them in the heat of the summer at night. And here's all you have to do: crabbing and fishing. And this is actually where you're not vertical jigging. Go to a bridge if you're on land, toss up current into the current, and then just bounce it. Like I'm talking like 1 inch bounces off the bottom and only reel in enough to keep the slack out of the line. And once that crosses the shadow line, let it go back under the bridge. And then once it gets taut and it starts to lift off the bottom because of the current, reel it in and do it again. It's just a very slow retrieve and bounce, very much the same way you catch weak fish at night. And just use a pink, bubblegum pink zoom on a bucktail or a naked jig. That's all it takes. But if you can find a place that has a distinct shadow line, like a bridge.
I know exactly where I could fish.
Yeah, I mean, it just
I'm literally picturing it in my brain.
I can see the gears turning in your head.
It's all about the shadow lines. If you can get a sharp shadow line, they're going to sit. Now, remember, they're ambush predators. They're not always just going to sit in the shadows. Sometimes they'll actually be in advance of that. And often the bigger fish are actually in the lights. If you can find anywhere that has a sharp shadow line, which is typically where you're going to see the resident striped bass in the summer, that's also good for Fluke. It's also very good for weak fish. So try it at night and use the bubblegum color. That'll also get you a really good shot at weak fish. I don't know why.
Color.
Yeah, they absolutely love that. You can use gulps. You can do the standard thing, but the key is use that current to your advantage, cast up into the current and retrieve towards you. And that's where the trouble comes. Because sometimes you can't fish the other side of the bridge because you're not allowed.
Where the current's going the opposite way.
It's going the other way, and you're like, damn, I got to find a different spot. But it really works well. And I can tell you that when my kids were little and we would go on vacation to the shore, I would spend all day with my family, and then night was my time. The kids go to bed. Okay. The kids would go to bed, and I had to figure it out. So I'd jump in the boat, and I'd head to a bridge, and I would just drift the bridge doing that. And then I realized, this is stupid. I could just jump in the car and be here in half the time and just fish from the bridge. And that's what I ended up doing.
Nobody's around.
No one's
fishing at night.
Actually, you will find.
Well, now the secret's out.
Yeah, you will find the people, and you will typically find some incredible fishermen at night. They'll just be stalking the bridges. Yep. The real, they're not like the, hey, I'm just down for the week. And, I fish once a year. It's not those guys. It's not those guys that are out there.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Jack is saying, as he would fish Townsend Inlet at night, I fish that a lot. That's actually close to where I would normally go.
Jack did ask about salmon belly, and I wanted to touch on that next.
Yeah, go ahead.
Salmon belly strips. I've tried it once. There's a local, I guess, bait and tackle, and they have it, and I didn't like it. It was extremely greasy and oily, and it just didn't work for me. But I've heard others that have great day with it.
It's not clean enough. You need to no oil on Ed's kayak or boat. I get it. Believe me.
Listen, I'm a mechanic. I'm in oil all day long. I don't want to be in any more oil.
Your hands might be soft though.
I'm an Italian. I just have to put my hands in my
Cancer.
hair, and I got plenty of oil. Yeah, me too. I don't want any oil all over my boat or kayak. I got enough on me.
I get it.
Yeah, so that was a good question, though.
Too oily.
Although oil is good, I think the thing at night is a lot of people think that you have to go by scent at night alone, and you really don't. I mean, you're going to catch these fluke at night visual. I mean, it's a visual bite. Striped bass, weak fish. You don't have to use any. Think about it. The legendary pink zoom. I mean, that's what people have been catching these things on at night for decades.
2 packs of them on my wall.
Yeah, I mean, you should always have pink zoom.
But now I'm kind of intrigued. So stripers and stuff kind of react off their lateral line, right? They'll sense things.
Yeah.
Do fluke have a lateral line?
Yeah.
And do they use that to pick up vibrations like bass and other fish? I need to do some research on that.
I think that fluke just want to kill anything that moves.
Well, they are very angry and aggressive. They're like the bitter, ugly kid that hates the rest of the world because they're so ugly. That's the fluke.
But it's what's on the inside that counts.
Yeah. So, I mean, but what's your question though, Ed, about it? Are you asking?
Do they use? I'm just putting it out there in the ether. Do they use their lateral line to?
Yeah.
Sense prey and things like that, or because they're laying flat on the bottom?
No, they do. Yeah, they do. They do. I mean, but you also have an advantage with flounder because they're typically going to be looking up into the current, so you get both, right? They're going to feel it and they're going to see it. I mean, they can see the stuff even on a new moon. They can see what's in the water. You know, there's still light and there's still enough light for them to see. But yeah, they can still sense it going through the water. They don't have to actually see it to know where it is.
Yeah, that was my intriguing question of the night.
Yeah. I mean, James brings up a good point. The black SP minnow at night.
I just got one. I'm so excited for it.
That's black. Black is a great color at night. Black and blurple are really good colors at night. But I just said, just use the pink though. Pink absolutely will work at night too. You know, kind of goes against, well, if it's dark, use dark colors. Yeah, it's true. But you can also use pink. You can also use white at night and they're still going to catch. But that's what I would do at night. Anywhere that there's lights at night, go and try to catch fluke. It's so much fun. It's so much. And when you get into them, they kind of all concentrate around the lights, just like any other fish. And you could just be pulling them out for hours in a row. Now, there's going to be a ton of small ones in there too, but there's going to be your fair share of big ones. I've caught many way over 20 inches. But then the next cast, you end up with like a 14-inch one where you're kind of embarrassed when you reel it up, you know, but
all fish are good fish.
Yeah. But they mix.
My first fluke was like this big. It was like a 6-inch fluke, I swear. And you saw my face. I was thrilled.
I saw that. I kept thinking from the last time you were on and you were talking about the winter flounder and the cute little tiny mouth. I was like,
they do have this little tiny mouth.
Yeah. I was like, well, this is actually a fluke. It's got a big mouth, but it was just as small as that, as that other one. Yeah.
That's true.
No, nothing wrong with small fish, especially this year. We have to target smaller fish. You know, they're 17 to 18.
That's true. You know, that's something that we didn't touch on. That slot was so hard to get.
Really?
Why? Oh my gosh. The first day I couldn't fill either of those 2 slots. I went home with 1 over. The second day I limited out. I finally found some slot fish, but those slots were hard to find. And actually I kind of like it because it adds a little bit more challenge.
Yeah.
See, that's what I was saying.
It does.
You know, it's funny. I didn't even think about that. I left with an over. And I could not get one between 17 and 18. But I will tell you this as an absolute fact. I can go through all of my videos from last year.
I know.
I caught like every goddamn fish last year that
was
wasn't 22 and over was between 17 and 18.
Yes.
And
Where
I
are
didn't
they?
catch
I don't
one
know.
of them.
Well, now they're all
week.
they're all the overs this year.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing, I guess. But there should be a ton of them. There were a lot of 16 and a halves last year too. But so, yeah. Now, the guy that we went with last week, Ray B, he had an issue where he caught a ton of them that were right on 18.
Oh,
So
really?
because they were literally right on, he threw them all back
Yeah,
because he
I
didn't
would've
want to
done
get
that too.
measured. You know,
Yeah.
measuring in a kayak's a little bit different. It's tough to be exact.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you have it in your lap or you're leaning over the rail because it's on the rail or on the paddle. So he literally threw them all back. I think he threw like 4 or 5 back that he thought were just under, but he wasn't sure. So, yeah. But I think he kept an over. I think he kept an over. Ed, did he?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe he caught one slot.
I don't think he got an over.
Okay.
I think he went home empty-handed, like me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because he kept throwing them back because they was worried about the size.
He was definitely throwing a bunch back. He threw more back than I did.
Yeah, it's stressful because, and then you don't want to like stand there measuring for 10 minutes trying to figure out if it's a legal fish or not. And by then the fish is dead when you're throwing it back. So you just want to get it back in quick. And by then you're throwing back keepers.
Yeah. Actually, I'm thinking maybe mine was a mid. I think mine was a slot. Yeah. I didn't have it over. I had the one that I kept was, I think it was a slot because I think I measured it 17 3/4. I was like, okay, so worst case it's 17 and a half. But it definitely isn't over 18, so it was an easy keep. But I did throw one back right on the line, and then the other ones were just not even worth keeping or even measuring. So I was tossing. Yeah, but it's weird though. We were talking last week. They're not found in the same spots exactly. So if you're hunting for the bigger ones, they're not necessarily going to be in the same spots as the smaller ones.
I mean, the channel that I was fishing in was very narrow. So depending on the drift, I was fishing the same spot kind of over and over again. I mean, within a few feet.
Yeah.
There just wasn't a lot of room. And plus, by the third day, there was a lot of boats because it finally kind of got nice and sunny. And like it's like bumper boats in the river. And it was just hard to drift and find a good drift. So kind of was fishing very similar spots. I mean, I stayed in the same area. It was near a bridge, so maybe that had something, you know, there's a little bit more structure there. So maybe that's why there was some good holes there.
Right.
I mean, is 21 inches that much bigger than a slot fish? I don't think it's that much bigger. So would that constitute, a big fish compared to slot fishes? I don't know. Found them in the same spot.
I would consider like a big fish in the backwaters being 23 plus.
Yeah, I was thinking even 24.
Yeah, and if you hit something, if you hit 26, I think it's a narrow range, and then I think like that's where you could start considering a backwater doormat size because you're not going to get a ton that are bigger than 26 inches in the back.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the kind of the way that I look at them. But yeah, the ones between 17 and 19 are pretty much the same as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. That makes sense.
But I'm not looking for the 17 to 19. I'm not looking for the 18 to 19s when I'm looking for the bigger ones. You know, I'm looking for the 23 plus. All right. Anything else that we should cover?
I checked my notes, and the only thing that I wanted to bring up was I signed up for the Amelia's special liver tournament today, and nobody else is on the board. So I highly recommend and encourage everyone to go sign up for the Fluke section because I signed up for the Fluke section, and I want you all to beat my butt in it. So if you go to Amelia's special liver on Instagram, and I also just added it to my story today, you can sign up. It's $50 and catch 5 fish and take a picture, download the app, and you submit the pictures. And I'm not sure what prizes they have yet. She said, I've been talking to her, and she said that they're going to announce prizes soon, but check it out.
Yeah, I actually haven't signed up yet. I forgot to before opening day.
I should have done it for opening day because it's going to be windy for the rest of May, and I probably won't even be able to get on the boat now.
I know. I just figured, I'll just sign up anyway because whether I fish it or not.
Right.
But,
yes. It's for a good thing.
I'm going to try 2 days this week though, and hope that I can get something on the boards. But people, if you want to see exactly what that is, we actually had as a guest on this live stream, like 4 videos ago, I think. Go back and check that out and you'll see what it is. It's basically a charity tournament. Poor little Amelia needs a liver transplant, and it's really, they don't know why. The doctors don't know why. They just know that this little girl who's just this little tiny like toddler needs a new liver. So it goes into research and support for people that have these unknown maladies. I can't call it a disease because they don't know what it is, but issues that affect them. And this little girl's going to need a transplant. And I think today she just went in for another pre-transplant. I've been following also. But man, happiest looking kid you've ever seen.
She's adorable.
Yeah, she is. She really is. You can tell that she's running her parents ragged. She's exhausting them. So I would encourage people to take a look at that and check it out and sign up for it.
I want some competition, people. You better sign up for it.
Well, I'm going to be competing with you.
Good.
Yeah.
I can't catch them, so I'm just going to donate my money and call it a day.
That's fine. And then once he doesn't bring the thing to put in his entry, he's going to catch 28-incher.
Oh.
I hope that works out for you, Ed. I do.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
if it takes me $50 to get a 28-incher, I'm good with that.
Fair enough.
So there you have it. Big thanks to Elle for coming on and talking with us about my favorite species, Summer Flounder, also called Fluke, and the tactics that she uses when she's targeting them throughout the season. For me personally, I picked up a lot of information that I'm going to try to implement next time I'm out on the water and throughout the season. Now, before I go, if you're not already following or subscribed to this podcast, that would be greatly appreciated. And of course, a positive review on any of the platforms that you listen to would be greatly appreciated as well. And it helps us to grow the podcast and draw more guests in the future. So until next week, until next episode, get out there, get on the water, and get some tight lines.